Hey friends, and welcome back. Okay, we are now approaching the end of chapter 2 of this course. Chapter 2 has all been about control flow and decision making in JavaScript, okay? However, while we've just seen the three main different types of loops you can use in JavaScript, the for loop, the while loop, and the do while loop, I just want to do a few for loop challenges with you just to make sure you're comfortable using loops. Loops are very handy when working with other data types in JavaScript, data types in JavaScript, such as arrays. The reason why loops are very important, by the way, is imagine you're trying to get in data from an API, like I've said previously. Maybe you're trying to get in stock data, or you're trying to get in clothes that you're going to have on your e-commerce website or videos, etc. Being able to understand loops is very important. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause this video and try your best to do the 4 challenges I've laid out for you. Otherwise, you can keep watching. So the first challenge is we're going to just use a for loop to log out numbers 1 to 10. Then we're going to reverse that. We're going to log out from 10 to 1, so counting down using the decrement operator. Then I want you to write a loop where you only log out numbers 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, i.e. multiples of 5. And then lastly, can you write some code where you write out a for loop and you essentially log out just the even numbers? Okay, so that's what we have to look forward to in this and the next tutorial. For this tutorial, let's just start with the first 2 challenges. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a for loop. I'm going to say for, I'm going to say let counter be equal to 1. We want to start the counter variable at 1. And we want to run our loop while counter is less than or equal to 10. So it's 10 inclusive. And after each loop iteration, we just want to use the increment operator. Okay? And all we need to do is just say console.log and then our counter variable. So hopefully this is very familiar to you now. Our counter is just a variable to keep track of what loop we're on. So we're saying let counter be equal to 1. Then there's going to be some sort of condition that is evaluated. So while counter is less than or equal to 10, well, that evaluates to true. The loop will run. We enter the code block, i.e. between the opening and closing curly brace, and then we just log out to the console log number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And remember, after each time we execute this code, the JavaScript statements within the code block, we just come up here and increment our counter variable. Okay? So if we save and refresh, we see number 1 to 10. Awesome. Now, I'm going to write out the for loop again, but this time we're going to do challenge 2. So this time we're going to use the decrement operator. So what I can do is I can create another for loop. We'll just do I this time, but remember I just represents our counter variable. So we say let I be equal to 10. We want to start counting at 10. And when do we want this loop to run? We want it to run while I is, you can say greater than 0 or greater than or equal to 1. Okay? So we want to run while I is greater than or equal to 1. If you want to have more concise syntax, you can just say while I is greater than 0, so while I is a positive number. And after each loop iteration, you just want to use the increment operator to just add to our counter variable. And remember, I is just our counter variable. So all we need to do here is just say console.log and then I. Okay, so what's going to happen is we have our for loop. We've created a variable called I. We've said let I equal to 10. Then we're going to check our condition. Is 10 greater than 0? That evaluates to true. So we just log out 10. My apologies. I'm supposed to use the decrement operator. This hot chocolate obviously hasn't increased my brain power. So yes, if I had have run that with the increment operator plus plus, we would have actually entered an infinite loop. The condition would have always been true because I would have been incrementing. Okay, because if you had I plus plus, I won't run the code. What will happen here is I is greater than 10. Okay, sorry, I is 10. So then we check here, is 10 greater than 0? Yes, it is. We log out 10, but then we increment I, so it's 11, 12, 13, 14. We're in an infinite loop. The condition here that we're checking would always be true. So you want to make sure that when you're counting down or doing a loop backwards, you use the decrement operator so you don't get stuck in an infinite loop. So now what's going to happen is we've now satisfied the conditions for the challenge. I should have listened to my own advice here, i.e. use the decrement operator, I just forgot. So I is equal to 10. We're checking this condition. Is I greater than 0? Is 10 greater than 0? Yes, it is. So we just log out 10. Then we come up here and we decrement I, our counter variable. So now it has a value of 9. Then we do our check again. Is 9 greater than 0? That evaluates true. So we log out 9. Then we come up here, decrement 1 from the number 9. And then eventually what happens is we get to 0. The condition is no longer true because 0 is not greater than 0. It's the same. That evaluates to false, and we stop running the loop. So if I save and refresh, we should now count down from 10 to 1. Awesome. I should have made a NASA joke there about Houston and takeoff. But guys, that is the first 2 challenges. Congratulations. I'll see you in the next tutorial where we're just going to log out the numbers essentially multiple to 5. So I'll see you in the next tutorial for more for loop practice.